Tonight, you're checking your bank account again, alone in the kitchen with the lights off, and every time you open the app, that small, tight knot in your chest resurfaces. And that feeling that arises when you check the account once more, the hope that the number has changed since this morning. But still, there's probably a woman you know, someone who isn't wealthy, doesn't earn an extraordinary salary, and doesn't carry credit cards where she never has to worry about her credit limit. When you look at her, she seems to have exactly what she needs, neither too much nor too little. Her home is calm and tidy. Her clothes are simple, but look good on her. She never mentions debt, never says the month was tough, never says she doesn't have enough money. She simply lives quietly, without that constant, low-voiced worry about money that so many of us carry with us every day. There are many women like this in Japan, and it's not a matter of luck. Today we'll take a look inside his mind, into the place where he holds what most of us have never been given. And I want to be honest with you right from the start. This isn't a savings method, it isn't an app, it isn't a spreadsheet. It's something much deeper than that. It's a mindset, a way of seeing money and possessions, one that quietly reveals how an entire life is lived. And the best part is, learning this costs you nothing. My name is Yuki, and I too used to look at my bank balance through exactly that lens, until my grandmother taught me something that completely transformed my relationship with money without ever once mentioning the word budget. And I promise, the idea I'm going to share with you today will quietly reshape and reorganize everything that came before it. So stick with me until the end, because it'll be worth it. To understand this mindset, we first need to understand a concept called ma, the empty space between objects, the silence between musical notes, the pause between words, the deliberate empty space left in a room. In the West, we generally view empty space as something unfinished, something that needs to be filled. An empty shelf feels incomplete. A closet with empty space gives the impression that something is missing. And a weekend without plans feels like a waste of time. But in Japan, that emptiness is intentional. It is valued and is an integral part of the design itself. And the same philosophy quietly extends to money as well. Money you haven't spent isn't lost. It is space, it is freedom, it is a possibility waiting patiently for you. And the very place where everything begins is precisely that unique shift in perspective. The first principle is called motenai. It's a word that can't be translated exactly into English. It's similar in meaning to what a shame, but it's expressed with genuine feeling. That slight pang you feel when you see something useful being thrown away, or something that was bought but never used, or when you see far more being consumed than is actually needed. Japanese women grow up with motenai, not as an imposed rule, but as an instinct, a quiet sensitivity that arises before making a purchase. And the question that naturally comes to mind before buying something is simple. Will this really be used? Is this a genuine need? Is it worth spending money and resources on? This is not stinginess, nor is it deprivation. It is respect. Respect for objects, respect for money, respect for the labor required to earn it. That is why a woman who has internalized motenai does not buy on impulse, does not buy something just because it's on sale, and does not buy it simply because everyone around her already has it. She buys only when there is a genuine need and when that item will truly be used and cherished. And in that pause, there is a quiet yet powerful feeling, because most regret about money doesn't come from big purchases, but from those dozens of small ones we barely remember. The thing bought while browsing online or in stores on the phone at 11 p.m. in bed. The thing bought just because the sale was ending. The thing still sitting in a drawer with its tag on months later. To put this into practice, this week, before every purchase that isn't food or a basic necessity, ask yourself one question. Am I going to waste this? No guilt, no judgment, just honesty. And notice how many times you quietly answer that question to yourself before you even reach for your wallet. And when this question becomes a habit, it naturally leads to a second question, one that isn't just about whether you need something, but about what kinds of things you're actually bringing into your life. The second principle is the difference between quality and quantity. And in Japan, there is a strong cultural tendency to own a small number of truly good things rather than many cheap items that break and are replaced over and over again. A few carefully selected pieces that last for years, rather than a closet full of items bought on impulse and regretted the very next morning. This runs almost completely counter to the Western message of consumerism that says, more is always better. Having many options is a form of wealth, and a full closet is a sign of abundance. But a Japanese woman would prefer to own one coat that fits her perfectly rather than 10 that are more or less her size, and to have a single ceramic cup she truly loves rather than 12 plastic cups she uses without a second thought. What does this have to do with money? The point is this. A woman who buys fewer but higher quality items spends less over the years because she doesn't have to constantly replace things that break or that she no longer likes. She buys something once, and that's enough. She also lives with less visual clutter, less mess, and less mental burden in managing and maintaining her belongings. Her home breathes, and so does her mind. And there's a quiet arithmetic hidden beneath this, because over the course of a decade, buying the cheap version 3 times almost always ends up costing more in terms of both money and patience than buying the good version once and caring for it properly. To put this into practice, the next time you need to buy something, instead of looking for the cheapest version, ask yourself which version will last the longest and which one you'll truly love. And if you can't afford that version right now, wait, save up and buy it later. Because the act of waiting is already part of the mindset itself, it is not a lack of patience. It is the mindset functioning exactly as it should. The third principle concerns something as simple as money itself, specifically cash. In Japan, cash is still the primary method of payment. This has nothing to do with being behind the times technologically. It's a philosophy and practice. When you pay with a card or your phone, money becomes abstract. It turns into a number silently changing on a screen. You don't see it go. You don't feel it go. And precisely because you don't feel it, you end up spending more without even realizing it. But when you pay with cash, money becomes real again. You touch it, you count it, you watch it pass from your hand into someone else's. And that small physical moment triggers something that a screen and a tap could never. A slight resistance in the brain, a brief pause, a spark of genuine awareness of what's actually happening. Japanese women have a practice called kakeibo for this. It simply means keeping a handwritten record of every amount coming in and every amount going out. It's not an app, but a notebook, a pen, and your own handwriting. And there's a reason it has to be handwritten. Writing by hand engages a different part of the brain, slows down the entire process, and makes it more conscious and more real. And Yuki still keeps her records in an old softcover notebook, not because it's efficient, but because that slowness is precisely the point. And she once told me that the page itself never lies to her, the way a banking app might, because she's written every number on it with her own hand. Japanese women have a practice called kakeibo for this. It simply means keeping a handwritten record of every amount coming in and every amount going out. It's not an app, but a notebook, a pen, and your own handwriting. And there's a reason it has to be handwritten. Writing by hand engages a different part of the brain, slows down the entire process, and makes it more conscious and more real. And Yuki still keeps her records in an old softcover notebook, not because it's efficient, but because that slowness is precisely the point. And she once told me that the page itself never lies to her, the way a banking app might, because she's written every number on it with her own hand. This is exactly where things start to feel different from everything we've been taught in the West about money, because the next idea isn't about spending less, it's about redefining what the word enough means. The fourth principle is to live within one's own limits, without viewing this as a source of shame. And this may be the hardest part for a Western mind to grasp, because we have been taught that limits are a kind of failure, that if you lack the power to achieve something, it means you don't have enough, and that the goal is always to spend more, earn more, and possess more. But in Japan, limits are seen as a design choice, a deliberate decision, even a form of elegance. And a Japanese woman who lives within her means does not feel that something is missing. She feels she has made a wise decision, that she has chosen freedom over debt, and that she has chosen the present over a future already mortgaged to pay it off. There's even a term for this, harahachibu, which literally means 80% full. It comes from Japanese food culture, where eating until you're 80% full is considered the healthiest way to eat. But the same philosophy quietly extends to everything. Living by spending 80% of what you can afford, deliberately leaving that remaining 20% untouched each time, because that 20% is the exact difference between feeling trapped and feeling free. To put this into practice, when your income is deposited into your account this week, set aside 20% of it before spending a single penny, save it, don't touch it, and live on the remaining 80%. And realize that this is truly possible, that you don't actually need that 20% you're so afraid of losing, and that it's only spent because it's left sitting there unprotected. The fifth and final principle, The one that's hardest to explain but most powerful to live by is the idea I promised you at the beginning. It's called Ichigo Ichi, meaning this moment just once. The quiet awareness that every moment is unique and will never happen exactly the same way again. That this teacup you're holding right now will never exist exactly like this again. That this conversation, this light, this moment is entirely singular. And when you begin to live with this awareness, something almost indescribable happens. Ordinary things quietly become enough. A simple meal is enough. Simple clothes are enough. A simple home is enough. Not because you've convinced yourself to settle for less, but because you've discovered the true beauty right before your eyes. And a woman who finds true beauty in what she has doesn't need constant novelty to feel whole, doesn't need the next possession to feel that her life is complete, because her life is already complete, right at this very moment, exactly as it is. And this is the mindset that lies quietly beneath everything. The real reason why Japanese women rarely feel that something is missing, even when they have far less than we do. This is not a technique, but a way of seeing. And once you notice it, you can no longer completely ignore it. Just as a room never looks the same again, once you've learned to appreciate the emptiness within it rather than trying to fill it up. Now, I know this might sound philosophical to you, far removed from the reality of paying bills, raising children, and just making it to the end of the month. But before I wrap up, I want you to realize something important. None of these 5 principles require money. None of them require you to earn more. None of them require you to have a different job or live a different life. They simply ask you to change the way you look at what you already have. Morenai, respect for what already exists, quality and quantity, choose the best and take less. Cash and awareness, feel the money so you can take good care of it. Harahachi Bu, live on 80% and preserve the rest. And Ichigo Ichi, find true beauty in this very moment. These 5 ideas come at no cost, and yet they bring about a complete transformation in your relationship with money and possessions. This week, start with just one, the one that resonates the most, the one that makes you feel like it could change something small but real in your daily life. And come back in 3 weeks to tell me what's changed, because financial freedom doesn't begin when you earn more. It begins the moment you need less. And needing less starts right here, in your mind, in the way you choose to look at things. As Yuki always says, small steps, big lives. So tell me in the comments which of these 5 principles you'll try first. I'd really love to hear about it. And if you know a woman who feels like she can never make ends meet, send her this video. This quiet conversation could make a big difference in her life. And when your money finally starts to feel more secure, the next thing that naturally tends to follow is your home. Because a woman who no longer makes impulse purchases begins to realize just how much of what's sitting in her closets and drawers she actually doesn't need at all. And this is that quiet, liberating decluttering process we'll go through step by step together in the next video. So if you want to keep following this series on Japanese habits, take a small step at a time, subscribe, and see you next time.